So my girlfriend said, well, why don't we just go try it? So I'm like, okay, the price is right. Why don't we just go try it? The wedding dress fit me like a glove. So my girlfriend said, you have to buy it. I'm like, my boyfriend didn't even propose yet. I don't even know we're gonna end up together. Why should I buy a wedding dress?
Love stories fill us with joy and inspire hope for the future. And a true life romance can remind us that sometimes just one spark is all it takes to change everything. Hello. Today I'm so excited to have Helen Raleigh. She's an American entrepreneur, writer, and speaker. I was so blessed to meet her at Freedom Fest in the summer. She's a senior contributor to The Federalist, and her writings have appeared in various national media, including the Wall Street Journal, the City Journal, the National Review, and Newsweek. Helen's authored several books, including the award-winning autobiography Confucius Never Said, and Backlash, How Communist China's Aggression Has Backfired. First of all, can you tell that maybe she was not born in America? Listening to the titles of these. Um, Her latest book is Broken Welcome Mat, America's Un-American Immigration Policy and How We Should Fix It. And as the wife of an immigrant, I totally agree. Helen is a highly sought after public speaker and a political commentator. She's appeared on C-SPAN Book, TV, News, Fox News, Newsmax, PragerU, PBS, and numerous radio talk shows and podcasts. She's been honored with the Defender of Capitalism Award and Leader in Action Award. And on top of that, the top 25 most powerful women in business in Colorado. Whew. We have a link to Helen's website on our episode guide and more ways that you can connect with her on our website, unexpectedlovestories.com. And we also will have that link in our episode guide as well. So, Helen, it is so incredible to have you here. I'm so honored. Thank you for saying yes and coming on the podcast. I
Thank you,
know it's
Don. The honor
different
is
than the
mine.
podcast. You're welcome. I know this is different from the kind of podcast you're used to, but I think it's important to share your story, your love story here. So let's start at the beginning. How did you first meet your spouse?
My husband name is Mike. The way we met actually was not too dramatic. We had a mutual friend. They're a mixed couple. The wife was
Mhm.
Chinese and the husband was Irish American. And so it so happens we know they're our mutual friends, and they just decided to introduce us together. To
Mhm.
meet together. So how we met, firstly, was really not very dramatic, but our first date was interesting. We met at a
Mhm.
restaurant, like a typical first date, but it did not go well. It was
Oh
not love
no.
in first sight because we started to talk about politics, which it's a big no-no. You should never talk about politics, especially not on a date. Anyway, we were we had so much disagreement. I thought, okay, I'm never gonna see this guy again. Like this is not gonna work. I told our friends this is not gonna work. But fortunately, my husband Mike at the time, a boyfriend or a friend, that he did not give up. Well, being cute helps quite a bit too. So, and one of Mike's best quality that really help our relationship sustain from all through life's all ups and downs has been that he's very patient. He's a very
Mhm.
patient person, and he's also a very respectful person. So just because him and I disagree politically at the time, we agree pretty much a lot of things now. But just because we didn't agree pretty much back then, he did not give up. He did not think just a political disagreement is something to write off an interesting person. And I
Mhm.
think that especially an important lesson nowadays, as we know, there's so many
Hmm.
young peoples or even families decided they're gonna severe family relationship, or they're never gonna date somebody who's Democrat, or they're never gonna date somebody who's Republican. To me, that's just silly. There are
Yes.
so much more things that are more important in life than politics.
Yeah. It's like one little circle,
Yeah.
and then there's the rest of life.
Yes. Yes.
It's I agree. I agree. I I saw a post that was beautiful. It's talked about, how could you put like a person that, your family member, your friend, that you have a life of love and stuff with, how could you just say, because you disagree with me on one thing,
Mm.
I'm just going to totally trash everything. But that aside, so a question: where were you guys at this time? Were you both living in the same city? Were you? Yeah.
Yeah, so we did live in the same city. At the time, so my husband, there's gonna be immigration stories. So my husband, he's a native born American, so he's an American citizen. He's from Omaha,
Hmm.
and I emigrated from China. So I'm actually at the time I was on H-1B temporary work visa. So it's a temporary work visa for highly educated, highly skilled foreign workers.
Hmm.
The visa only lasts for 6 years. So after the 6 years, if you haven't become a green card holder yet, then you have to leave the country. So at the time, I was on that H-1B visa. So I was an immigrant, and he's American citizen. But we both lived in the same city.
Hmm. So how far along were you in your 6 years?
So when I first met him, I was like in my third year. And
Okay.
here's something I really want to educate your listeners about this H-1B visa. Um, because our immigration system, as you know, you have personal experience, is pretty messed up.
Hmm.
So even though I have two master degrees, I speak English, I was working for a multinational company, but because I do not have any relatives or family member living in the United States, which is a majority of our immigration visa goes towards family
Hmm.
reunion. So for people like me, work through employment, that's really the only way. Other than getting married, that's the one of the two ways.
Hmm.
And I was very determined because I'm a very independent woman. I was very determined that I'm gonna get a green card. I want to become American based on my own merit. So that was very
Hmm.
important to me. And I also did not want to have this pressure on my future fiance or boyfriend to say, oh, we have to get married, because of my immigration issue. So it was very important to me. But not many employers were willing to sponsor employment-based green card
Hmm.
because it's very costly and the process is very long, and they really
Hmm.
have to value you to a point that they're willing to do so. So anyway, when I first started dating my husband, I was third year into this 6 year period, and
Hmm.
after we dated for a year, it found another employer which was able to and willing to sponsor me through employment based visa, but the employer is in Detroit. So
Oh, okay.
we met in Denver, Colorado. We both worked
Hmm.
at Denver, Colorado. But in order to get the employment based green card, I had to move from Denver to Detroit, which means we have to keep our relationship, keep our dating, long distance. So that was a big
Hmm.
challenge.
Yeah. So did you take that job in Detroit?
I have to, as I mentioned, because again,
Hmm.
with how screwed our immigration is, and also it's important that I get green card on my own merit. Yeah, I took the job, and again, Mike was very understanding and supportive.
Hmm.
He understood how important it is. It's also a big jump in terms of my career. So it was
Hmm.
I was so basically my employer was Daimler Chrysler. I was working for a bank in Denver, and this whole cross country move brought me to a whole new different industry, and also
Oh.
a much
Hmm.
bigger bigger company, a multinational company. And so it's both from career standpoint as well as from immigration point standpoint. That's very important to me to make the move. But it's also a test for our
Mhm.
relationship, like whether we can survive for this long
Oh,
distance
yeah,
relationship. Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so you've had your first date, you argue about politics, but he calls you back?
He called me back, after a few days, and he invited me out again. And we both decided wisely, let's not immediately jump into talk about politics again. We should get to know each other. So we did many fun things, like we went to the botanical garden, we went to summer
Mhm,
concerts, and just get to know each other. He did gradually introduce me to read some interesting books. For example, Frederick Hayek's, The Road to Serfdom, and he introduced me to Milton Friedman. And like I said, he's very patient. He didn't introduce me to
mhm,
read those things as a manipulative way to say, hey, you need to read this. No, he just said, you may be interested, you know. Here's
mhm,
what I believe. You may be interested to read this. Just see if you agree with some of this viewpoints. And the
mhm.
book he introduced to me was very eye-opening for me because I did grow
Mm,
up, I came from China. I did grow up in a communist country. So I had those real life experiences, but I
mhm.
never made the connection between real life experiences to a higher ideological level. I always thought, no, the reason we lived miserably because we had a bad leader. And if we just had a
Oh, okay.
good, benevolent leader, everything would be good. But those
Mhm,
books really changed my mind about what's really wrong. It's the system was rotten. The system is rotten. The
mhm,
ideology is rotten. The system was rotten. The ideology is rotten. So there's no good leader can fix a rotten system. And I just so
mhm,
grateful that my husband, played such an important role in my intellectual growth. Yet
mhm,
he did it in a way with so much patience and love.
mhm, mhm. So do you think is that patience and that pursuing of you one of the things that drew you to him?
Yes, yes. And another thing drew me to him was also that he always makes me laugh.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yes. Yes.
That's really good.
It is. It is.
So,
Yeah.
so,
I don't always get his joke, because there's humor is very culture specific. So
mhm,
so sometimes it takes certain culture context to understand the humor. But
yep,
gradually I got used to his humor, and he just always found a way to make me laugh, and I really like that, and I really appreciate that too.
that's sweet, that's sweet. So just a question, how long were you guys in the same city before you had to move to Detroit in your dating life?
A year. So we dated for a year in Denver before I
Okay,
had to move to Detroit.
okay. And when did you realize that your feelings were becoming more than just a friendship feeling, that you were starting to fall for the
Oh.
guy?
Well, yeah, so during this 1 year when we were started dating,
Mhm.
I think it's once we stopped talking about politics, and I mean, he's very good looking, and he's funny. Like I said, he's very funny, and he's
Mhm,
well read. He
mhm,
understands a lot about Chinese history. It just, we have intellectually, we are very compatible. And also, he's a
mhm,
transplant to Denver because he moved from Omaha to Denver. So even though he didn't move, internationally like I did, but he
mhm,
was also a transplant. So we both have this transplant, share this something in common, and we will both love our family, so we do share a lot of things in common, and we both
mhm,
get to explore Denver as transplants. We did many
mhm,
interesting and fun things together. So yeah, so before I accepted the job that I have to move to Detroit, I
mhm.
knew this is the guy I want to marry. He probably hasn't decided it back then. He's very meticulous when he is come to make a big
Mhm,
decision like that. But I think, like as women, we knew when we found the right
mhm,
guy, we knew very quickly that he's the right guy. But I also knew that because he's the right guy, he's worth the wait. I cannot rush him. So,
mhm,
and I need to pursue my career as well as you know, employment based green card. So I
Mhm.
just have to leave, and hopefully that if our love, is for real, then it would
Mhm.
sustain this long distance,
Yes.
challenge, and which it did.
Mhm. That's good. Okay, so, how did you know this a lot of people ask me this question. How did you know this is the one? I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
particularly women, I've heard guys say it too, but it's like, how do you know this is the one? Because a lot of women will put themselves out there and get their hearts broken, and then they try, and stuff, and so they want to know, what is it that lets you know this is the one? So how
I
did you know?
yeah. I want to tell all the women out there, it's small things. That's small
Mhm,
things. So when we were dating, like, couples strolling, on the sidewalk and
mhm,
stuff, I noticed that he always walk outside of me. He always
mm,
kept me inside. And like if we change directions, he would change directions. He always kept me inside. So I asked him, I
mhm.
said, I said, why do you always want me to walk inside? He said, because that's how I can protect you. I walked outside,
Oh,
you walked inside.
mhm,
That's how I knew he's the one. That's how I knew. Because that's how you show love and care for
mhm,
someone, not some fancy promises. It's through those little things. I never asked him to
mhm,
do that. I did it, guys. You know how the saying,
mhm.
before you kiss a
Yeah.
prince, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. I had my fair share of a kiss to quite a few of frogs. And before him, nobody really cared. Guys I dated, nobody really cared. Nobody even made that connection. He was
Yeah.
the first one made that connection. And to him, it's
Mhm,
just, and also it's not pretentious. To him, that protectiveness of me came so naturally to
mhm,
him. That's
mhm.
how I knew he's the one.
Yeah. You were precious to him.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so you know he's the one. You're waiting for him to to realize, or at least to verbalize, that you're the one for him. You're in Detroit. Take us from there.
So I was in Detroit, and obviously we have to continue to date long distantly. So
Mhm,
we tried. We tried to, like, uh, he'll visit me. I would visit him back to Denver. He would visit me in Detroit. Or sometimes
mhm,
we meet in a different city. Like sometimes we meet in Chicago, and sometimes we meet in Las Vegas. When I have a conference this
mhm.
way. So we try to find a way to meet each other to keep the flame going. But it is, I have to say, it is very hard. It is mostly very lonely. And thank God there's like emails, phone calls,
Mhm,
i- and and also his family is very nice to me. So sometimes when you during holidays, his family lives in Omaha, which is like a like a midpoint. So we would meet
mhm.
in Omaha. We spend holidays with his family. It just, everybody made me feel so welcomed as a part of the family. Here's the funny
Well,
thing.
that's
So
important.
his dad was a Vietnam War veteran. He
Uh-huh.
won Purple Heart, and so when Mike brought me first time to visit his parents, I was so nervous because I thought, well, his dad fought in Vietnam War. He must hate Asians, you know. Yeah, I was so nervous to meet them for the first time, but it turns out
Uh,
they just embraced me with all the
yes.
warmth. There was. So that's another thing to convince me. This is, not only he's the one. This is the family. These are, I couldn't ask him for better in-laws. This is the one. So, and I also, because I knew, and when my girlfriend and I went to, we had both had a conference opportunity. She works for Ford. When we went to San Francisco for a
Mhm.
conference, we walked by a store. They had a wedding gown for sale. This
Oh.
was even before Mike proposed. Like I had no indication that
Uh-huh.
he was going to propose. So
Mhm.
yeah, and it was like the second year I lived in Michigan. So my girlfriend said, well, why don't we just go try it? So I'm like, okay, the price is right. Why don't we just go try it? The wedding dress fit me like a glove. So my
Oh my
girlfriend said,
goodness.
you have to buy it. I'm like, my boyfriend didn't even propose yet. I don't even know we're gonna end up together. Why should I buy a wedding dress? She said, you know what? She's a Japanese American. She said that if you think he's the one, if you
Mhm.
really want to encourage him to marry you, not like you want to give him a pressure, but he said she told me you need to send this vibe to the universe that you want to get married to this guy. And she said this wedding dress that fits you perfectly and is on sale because I'm an Asian, I like good deals. So she said it's
Uh-huh.
a sign. You have to buy it and send the vibe to the universe. So the universe will let your boyfriend know it's time that he should
Mhm.
propose. So I bought the dress and I didn't tell Mike about the dress because I don't want him to think I'm giving him some kind of pressure. But a few months later, he proposed.
All right. So let's talk. Well, let's talk about a few other things, and I definitely want to get to that proposal. Um, who said "I love you" first? Was it Mike or was it you?
Uh, that's interesting. I think if I remembered it correctly, I think I said it first. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
Do you remember? Do you remember it at all?
yeah, and he immediately responded the same.
Oh,
Yeah, so it
that's so
was not
sweet.
like it just felt so natural.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just feels
Oh.
so natural, like nobody struggled about that. Yeah, like uh once we started dating, even though we started dating casually, but we quickly just
Hmm.
became very exclusive and it became really serious dating relationship. We stopped seeing other people, and like
Hmm.
I said, I knew pretty soon that he's the one. So it just came naturally that I know I love this
Hmm.
guy.
Oh, I love that. Okay. How about the first kiss?
Oh, the first kiss. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was so I was very shy.
Hmm.
So in the first couple of days, even after he, dropped me off at my home, in front of my house and stuff, I did not get a good night kiss because I just did not feel comfortable. I mean, I came from China, we don't just like we're not used to this kind of expressing. So yeah. So I remember it was during we went to a summer concert. We went to a summer
Hmm.
concert that I knew back then I really like him very much. We went to a summer concert, and when the concert's over, it was late at night. The concert provided golf carts, and there's like old gentleman he drove the golf cart to take people back to the parking lot. And of
Uh-huh.
course, there were a lot of people, so we had kind of stacked on top of each other. There wasn't enough seats, so I had
Hmm.
to. So the older gentleman told Mike, said, "Why don't you just let your wife sit on your lap?" And both of us like, no, we're not married. And he was like, you should be. So that's kind of, even though he was half joking, but it
Hmm.
almost kind of give it, like, especially for me, from Asian culture, it's almost
Hmm.
like I get this approval from elders to say, it's okay to have this physically, intimacy because
Uh-huh.
you get approval from the elders. And so yeah, so that night when he took me back, dropped me
Hmm.
off in front of my house, that's when we had our first kiss. And that's just,
Hmm.
because then I felt much more comfortable. I know it sounds so silly, but we're just built differently. So
Yes. That's okay. That's okay. I totally get it. And how did that kiss leave you?
I
Were
loved
you
it.
starry-eyed? Were you
Oh yes, I loved it because I had, like I said, I had some. I dated some other guys before Mike, and I had my share of a
Mhm.
bad kisser too. And there were guys like after the kiss is like, this is not like the kiss killed it. Like this is never gonna happen. But yeah, so Mike's a good kisser.
Oh, good. That's that's good for a happy marriage for sure.
Yes.
Um, So I know that um, there was a lot of things that happened from the time you met and then moving to Detroit. Um, how did timing uh, how did timing like interact with um, everything in your
in our
love life
relationship.
there?
Yeah,
Yes.
so I lived in Detroit for 3 years. So we kept our
Mm,
long distance relationship for 3 years. And then during this time, going back to immigration, unfortunately, so
hmm
my employer did apply employment based green card for me, but because
hmm
the backlog, as you know, the application did not progress much at all. So I was in this legal purgatory that my H-1B expired. I'm still legal because we filed the paperwork, that my employer filed the paperwork, but because
hmm
there's no progress, so my employer was going to move me to Canada, while we're still
hmm
waiting for this. So I was talking to Mike about, I'm going to have to move to Canada.
Yeah.
My employer talked about moving me to Canada. I think that's really helped him. Plus, the universe told him I bought a wedding dress. That, and the fact that I'm gonna move further and further away from him, I think that helped
hmm
him make the decision that if he wants to keep me here, then he needs to do something.
He
And
needs to
so yeah,
move.
so that
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just a question talking about the wedding dress. How long did you have the wedding dress before the wedding? How long was it hanging in the closet waiting for
About a year.
things to happen?
About a
Okay.
year. Yeah. Yeah. Only after he proposed, I told him I already had the wedding dress, but before that, I didn't tell him.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
was my next question. All right. Well, I want to hear about the proposal. We're going to come back in just a second. Are you craving a love story that defies all the odds? Well, check out my other podcast, Love Unexpected, where I share my unbelievable journey of how I met my husband. You see, I went on this whirlwind 2-week tour in Europe, and I returned to the States engaged. And that was just the beginning. We didn't see each other again until 17 days before the wedding. This story is just packed with twists, leaps of faith, and unforgettable romance. So join me in finding love unexpected, where love always finds a way. You can listen now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get into the proposal story. So he is knowing that time is of the essence because of your visa in need of a green card situation. Um, was it a planned or spontaneous proposal?
Oh, it was
Did you
definitely
know he
planned.
was going to, okay, you knew he was going to propose because of the situation
Oh
or,
no, I did not know. He
okay,
planned it. I did not know. He
okay.
actually, I found out later that he took a male friend of his. He told his family he was going to propose, and he took a male friend of his to went to the jewelry store because this friend is married and knows a lot about like the four C's of choosing the engagement ring.
Oh,
So so like I said, Mike, he does things very methodically, so he took his friend to go
hmm
with him, and they had a long conversation with the salesperson, and he described what I like, what I look like,
hmm
so to make sure they pick the perfect ring, stuff. So for to him, it's totally planned. For me, I really had no idea because he did not give me any indication at all. And the proposal, just like our dating life, initially
hmm
did not go well. So I was I was doing a project in Chicago, and it was close to my birthday. So he told me he's gonna come to visit me to celebrate my birthday in
hmm
Chicago. So which was fine. He was working for a telephone company back in Denver,
hmm
and he's the last person in our whole friend circle that did not have a cell phone. He worked
Okay.
for a phone company. He refused to have a cell phone. And so I was
Is
supposed
that
to
a
pick him
good
up.
thing or a bad thing? Does that say a good
Well,
thing or a bad thing about cell
now
phones?
he's on his phone all the time playing games. I think it was a bad thing. I think he had some self control. We just did not realize that. So anyway, I was supposed to pick him up at O'Hara, right? And
Hmm.
I was supposed to pick him up at the curb, but because he didn't have a cell phone, so I did not, and his flight was late, so I didn't know where we could meet. And so I was circling the O'Hara airport, for ages because they wouldn't let you park. Of course, eventually I did get him, but I was so mad. I screamed at him. I said, it's 20th century, it's 2008. You need to have a cell phone. You work for a phone company. This is very inconvenient, right? You need to join the modern society, have a cell phone. And he told me later he had a ring in his pocket. But because I screamed at him, he was thinking, well, should I really do this? So after the storm, after my anger's over, after the storm,
Hmm.
of course, I'm going to, we decided we're gonna walk around the city. I'm gonna show him around. So yeah, so we went to the John Hancock building at the top. They have you can walk around to see the site, the overview of Chicago is very pretty.
Hmm.
So we went to the top of the John Hancock building. When it was just two of us at the corner, that's when he put out the ring. And I
Oh.
was really shocked. I started crying because it was totally
Oh.
unexpected. And I obviously regretted that. I'm like, I just yelled and screamed at him, for not having a cell phone.
But he still chose you.
Yeah, he still decided to marry me.
So was it an immediate yes, absolutely. Let's do this.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I wanted
Oh.
to marry him 3 years ago, before I left Denver. So I always knew he's the right guy. Yeah. So I said
Hmm.
yes immediately. And then we called his family, immediately just to let them know we are engaged, we're engaged. So
So
his family is very
you
excited for
called
us. Yeah.
so you called on your phone evidently if he didn't have
Yes.
his
Yes.
so
He did not have a cell phone. Yeah.
how about your family?
Um, International call was still very expensive back then, so
Hmm.
I sent my family email. So I took a picture of my
Okay.
finger with the engagement ring. So I sent them
Oh.
a picture of the engagement ring, um, and then emailed them, let them know that I'm engaged. Yeah.
Oh. And what did they think about Mike?
Oh, my parents, so they saw his picture. They haven't met him
Hmm.
in person, but they saw his picture, and they
Hmm.
thought his looks very sweet. He got this very sweet, baby face.
Hmm.
It's yeah. They thought he's very sweet, and my family just is thrilled that cause I in by China standards I got married kind of late in life, so my parents
Hmm.
like, oh, you're never gonna get married, and now I finally engaged. Like, oh, they're so happy.
That's wonderful. So, how much time was there between your engagement and your wedding?
So we got engaged in May.
Hmm.
We initially decided that we want to wait until, so that was May 2008. We initially
Hmm.
decided that we want to wait, just follow the tradition. We want to wait until the next year, the following year, to get married. This way we can have more time to plan. But
Hmm.
it turns out, after we consult the lawyers, they said that because my employment based visa, like there's no sign of progressing at all.
No.
So our lawyer said you cannot have two applications out there. So they said that you may just drop the employment based green card application, and you should get married as soon as you can. And
Uh-huh.
then you can apply, have your husband sponsor you, which I told you it's something I tried very hard to avoid. but it eventually it went that route anyway. So we got married in September. So it's only a few months. So we had a small
Hmm.
but a very lovely wedding. We got married back here in Colorado. Our venue is beautiful. So we had about a 20 some guests, close friends and
Hmm.
families. Um, for my family, my sister and my niece was there. My niece was she's about 8. She's our flower girl. So
No.
yeah, we had small but still very sweet wedding.
All right. And I'm going to tell my listeners that you can see pictures of Helen in the dress, and you can see pictures of her wedding on our website, which is unexpectedlovestories.com. So make sure you go there and see these photos. Um, Anything about your wedding day that really stood out for you? Any funny or moments or memorable moments?
Oh, the most memorable moments was my niece. I told you she was only 8 years old. Her name's
Hmm.
Joanna. She was our flower girl. And so I bought her a little basket, has like a rose petal, fake rose petal in there.
Hmm.
And I didn't see this because I was, as a bride, I was waiting, downstairs
Hmm.
and waiting for my turn. So she was the one to drop the rose petal. But later I saw the video, and instead of just spread the rose petal, she's carefully
Hmm.
put each rose petal on the floor. She was so adorable that everybody just, even the person who played the piano, everybody just took their time, waited for her. Nobody rushed her because everybody just thought she's so adorable. Just give her the time to lay each rose petal on the floor until all the way to the altar. So that really stood out to me because now she's grown up, and
Hmm.
she often spend times with us, especially during COVID when she went to school here
Hmm.
in Colorado, and that's really brought us very close. So she's like a daughter to Mike and I. But that's how it's
Oh.
all get started. She was our flower girl, and she carefully
Hmm.
put every rose petal on the floor. Never seen anything like that.
She took her job very
She
seriously,
took her job very
obviously.
seriously. Yeah.
All right. And honeymoon? Where did you go for your honeymoon?
We didn't go to honeymoon immediately, again because the visa limitation. As you may know
Hmm.
that when you get your green card through marriage,
Hmm.
you will have to apply for it's temporary. It's only good for 2 years,
Hmm.
and actually you have
Yes.
to apply for it with your wedding certificate. It takes time.
Hmm.
Everything with the immigration office takes time. So before I had that green card, I couldn't travel anywhere. So we didn't really had a honeymoon immediately. But the year after, in 2009, we
Hmm.
went to China for honeymoons. This way, he gets to meet all my families and relatives, and he was a big hit. Everybody loved him, and because he does not speak Chinese, but so he just always smile. No matter who says what,
Hmm.
he just smiles, and everybody just loved it. Yeah.
I keep on listening to you, and your story and my story keeps lining up so much, from finding the dress like on sale that fits, that also, like with our honeymoon, we just literally, we were married in East Tennessee. We just went down to Chattanooga for a week, and then the next year I went to Poland,
Oh,
and
see,
that's got to
yeah,
meet his family,
yeah.
for the first time. And I didn't speak Polish, and yeah, it's very very similar stories
Right, and
that we.
yeah, it's like you and Mike, right? You and
Uh-huh.
Mike, you're Americans, and they just as a mixed couple, you just have to embrace the other culture,
Hmm.
and it's easier.
Yes.
You get to speak the language, but you know what? Love is love. The
Hmm.
family, even though Mike cannot communicate with most of my families, but they still love him, and he still love them back. Like there are something
Hmm.
universal and very human that even you don't speak the language, people gets it. You know you're
Hmm.
embraced by the warmth and love from a family, even if you don't have
Yes.
to communicate in their language. You just know that. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the knowing as well, that this
Mhm.
is right,
Mhm.
is that you fit into that family.
Yes.
It's It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah, I love his family. He loves my family. I'm so blessed.
Mhm.
So, how many years have you been married now?
We've been married for 15 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And how do you think things have grown over the years between the two of you?
Um, I think our relationship has grown stronger. We've been
Mhm.
through some hardship,
Mhm.
heartbreaks, because we lost our babies. Um,
Mhm.
but still, that the when we first lost our baby, we were told the couples who lost their babies, there's like a 99% of divorce rate. Uh, the
Mm.
fact that he and I still together because we decided we never gonna blame each other. We're never gonna blame
Mhm.
another person for this painful, tragedy. And I also think his patience and his love, the qualities continues to have and demonstrate since we started dating, really
Mhm.
helped strengthening our relationship. Because I was much worse, like emotionally, compared to
Mhm.
him, and he gave
Mhm.
me the time to heal, and he gave me the
Yeah.
time and the space to heal, and also, like I said, it's very important he did not blame me. I never blamed him.
Mhm.
We took this as a God's will, and we do not know what lesson God tried to teach us, but we did not blame each other. And
Mhm.
so that's how we learn to grow. And once we get through, um, I mean, the pain's still there, but we learn to get through this together. I mean, now
Mhm.
there's nothing. I'm 100% sure, and I think I can speak for him. He's 100% sure. There's nothing is going to break
Mhm.
our relationship because once you experience the one of the worst tragedies in life like that, there's
Mhm.
nothing. Yeah, you only become so much. Your relationship gonna become so strong. There's nothing else you cannot overcome, and that's the phase I have in this relationship, and I know he does. I know he does too. And there's nothing,
Yeah.
after this, there's nothing else can break us.
Yeah. Another similarity in our stories. I
Mhm.
love this. Um, Sorry. Having a moment.
I know. Take your time.
Thanks. Uh, so, I'm just let everyone know. I'm going to put a link also in this. Helen shared her story on PBS about losing her children and the process of healing through it. And so I want to share that with you. So I'm going to make sure that that link is also with our on our website and also in this episode guide so that you can see that. And it's important if you've been through um, a time of loss of a child that you have a place of healing.
Mm.
So let's see. Is there any advice that you would like to give to people who are looking for love or those who are in early stages of the relationship?
Hmm. Well, we've been married for 15 years. I don't know,
Hmm.
like my parents, both sets, our parents married over 50 years. So they probably in a better position to give advice than we do. But if I have to, like for dating, I would just say,
Hmm.
uh, pay attention to small things. Like I said,
Hmm.
when I knew Mike's the right guy, it's because I noticed he always kept me inside when we walk on a
Yeah.
sidewalk. It's a very small gesture, but it's those small
Hmm.
gestures let me know I'm precious to him. He's protective of
Hmm.
me. I can trust in him. So I would say just focus on small things.
Hmm.
Then in terms of relationship, I think not assign blame is also
Hmm.
very important because um, in a relationship, whether you're married or especially after you get married, you're gonna encounter so many challenges. We encounter
Oh
so
yeah.
many challenges our own, so many challenges as a couple. Um, it's actually a blessing when you encounter those challenges. You have somebody next
Mhm.
to you, right? You're not dealing with
Mhm.
those challenges alone. So instead of focus on those challenges, continue remind yourself you are blessed, because there's so many people have to deal with similar challenges
Oh, yeah.
alone, and you have somebody next to you. So don't push
Mhm.
him or her away by assigning the blame, even if it's their
Mhm.
fault, right? You're not going to strengthen your relationship by proving to be right by blaming the
Oh,
person
yeah.
who's next to you. It's the person next
Mhm.
to you is your team player, is a partner to you, so cherish that person. You guys can
Mhm.
deal with the challenge together, fix it together, but do not assign
Mhm.
blame. Assigning blame is a poison to a relationship. So
Yes.
it helps to any relationship that if you do not try to work together instead of assigning blame. So those are the two pieces of advice I'll give.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Helen. Is there anything else that you would love to share with us about your love story before we
Oh,
close out?
Oh, I think I shared plenty. I'm just very blessed that I found a good partner. Um,
Mhm.
when my husband Mike, nowadays when he give our nieces and nephew as a
Mhm.
relationship advice, he always say, um, marriage is a team sport. You know,
Mhm.
you find the best. You find the best person that you can play with against the
Mhm.
rest of the
Yeah.
life. So
Yes.
that's why you want to seek out, not the best of somebody who's doing everything out there, but the best for you,
Mhm.
best to join your team, that you guys can make a team. So
Mhm.
that's just the departing advice from my husband is, marriage is a team sport. So go find
Mhm.
that best, team player that you guys can play a successful life game together.
I love that. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story. And friends, again, I'm going to remind you, you can see photos of Helen on our website, unexpectedlovestories.com. The link is to this episode is in our episode guide, and you can also find links to Helen's website, which is helenrawleyspeaks.com. And you can find links to her newsletter and ways to get in touch with her in this episode guide, as well as on our website. And I just would like to remind you, too, that we would love to hear from you listeners. Please contact us with through emails or through contacting us on uh, through the episode guide or through anything else. Thank you again, Helen. You're amazing. Your story is amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to communicating with you more in the future.
Thank you for
God
having
bless.
me, and good luck with your old wedding.
Thank you. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us and share your comments about this episode on YouTube, Spotify, or whatever streaming platform you use. We want you to become a part of the conversation. So please go to our website, unexpectedlovestories.com, and share your love story with us. You can find a link to it in our episode guide. And while you're there, check out the photos of couples from each episode. We'd love you to share our podcast with your family and friends so that they can enjoy these stories as well. Unexpected Love Stories can be found on all their favorite podcast platforms.